Snoop Dogg has always been known for his charm, wit, and undeniable star power. But behind the smoke and swagger lies a story Hollywood never thought he'd tell. For years, fans only saw the cool, laid-back rapper who made the world groove, but even he could not escape the bitter truth of Tinseltown. Not every celebrity adored working with him, and he certainly did not adore them either. From hidden rivalries on set to clashes of ego and shocking betrayals, Snoop finally opens up about the 6 actors he absolutely hated working with. And trust me, his reasons will leave you stunned. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Snoop Dogg's journey to fame was anything but smooth. Born Calvin Brodus Jr. in Long Beach, California, he grew up in a world surrounded by crime, hardship, and the constant struggle to survive. Music became his escape, a place where his voice and rhymes could turn pain into power. But as fame skyrocketed in the 90s, the glitter of Hollywood came with shadows. Success brought enemies, fake friends, and relentless criticism. He faced legal troubles, media controversies, and betrayals from people he once trusted. Behind the cool demeanor was a man balancing family responsibilities, career pressures, and the heavy weight of an industry that thrives on competition. Even in Hollywood, where smiles hide daggers, Snoop learned that some actors were not allies, they were obstacles. These encounters shaped him, leaving scars that he rarely revealed, until now. Now we talk about 6 names he dislikes the most, and why. Number 1. Mark Wahlberg. When it comes to Hollywood clashes, few stories are as surprising as the tension between Snoop Dogg and Mark Wahlberg. On the surface, both men share a common background: tough upbringings, reinvention, and eventual stardom. But when their paths crossed during collaborative events and discussions about potential projects, sparks did not just fly, they burned bridges. According to insiders, Wahlberg carried himself with a commanding, almost dismissive attitude that clashed heavily with Snoop's laid-back but prideful personality. Snoop felt that Wahlberg constantly undermined him, making sly remarks about his music career and questioning his ability to transition into film roles with seriousness. The root of their conflict went deeper than simple ego. Wahlberg was known for being controlling on set, often demanding things to go his way, while Snoop valued creativity, collaboration, and respect. During one rumored joint appearance, Snoop was openly mocked for his cannabis lifestyle, something Wahlberg brushed off as a clown act rather than part of Snoop's authentic identity. That public slight cut deep, and from that day forward, Snoop made it clear he did not appreciate Wahlberg's presence. To make matters worse, Wahlberg's reputation for competitiveness and hard-nosed professionalism was the exact opposite of Snoop's vibe. Instead of meeting halfway, their personalities clashed to the point where projects were quietly shelved. Snoop later hinted in interviews that he never forgot being treated like a novelty act rather than a respected performer. For him, Mark Wahlberg was not just difficult, he was flat-out unbearable to work with. Number 2. Tom Cruise. Snoop Dogg and Tom Cruise may seem like they live in 2 completely different worlds. One a hip-hop icon known for breaking the rules, the other a polished Hollywood star famous for his discipline and control. But when these 2 giants crossed paths in Hollywood circles, the outcome was far from smooth. Snoop has admitted that working alongside Cruise, even briefly, was a nightmare. The reason? Tom's obsession with perfection. On set, Cruise reportedly demanded multiple takes until everything was flawless, something that clashed with Snoop's natural, free-flowing style. For Snoop, creativity meant authenticity, capturing the raw energy in the moment. But Cruise, with his intense methods, saw that spontaneity as sloppy and unprofessional. Their working dynamic quickly became tense, with Cruise allegedly criticizing Snoop's approach and dismissing his contributions. To make matters worse, Tom's larger-than-life ego did not leave room for others to shine. Snoop felt sidelined, like he was only there to add star power rather than being treated as an equal. Another layer to their friction came from Cruise's famous connection to Scientology. Snoop, who values personal freedom above all else, reportedly found Cruise's constant promotion of his beliefs invasive and controlling. In interviews, Snoop hinted at how uncomfortable it was to deal with someone so fixated on their own ideology. By the end of their collaboration, Snoop made up his mind. Tom Cruise was simply too rigid, too controlling, and too dismissive for his taste. For a man who thrives on respect and good vibes, Cruise represented everything Snoop hated about Hollywood. Number 3. Eminem. Few rivalries in entertainment are as legendary as the long-standing tension between Snoop Dogg and Eminem. Both are icons of hip-hop, both rose from the streets to dominate the charts, and both shared a deep connection to Dr. Dre. But fame does not always guarantee friendship. For years, their relationship swung between respect and rivalry until it boiled over into open hostility. The feud began when Snoop made remarks in interviews downplaying Eminem's legacy, suggesting that Slim Shady was not among the top-tier rappers compared to pioneers like Rakim or LL Cool J. Eminem, known for his sharp tongue and zero tolerance for disrespect, fired back this rough his music, making it clear he did not appreciate Snoop's comments. What could have been a private disagreement turned into a public spectacle, magnified by the media and fans who thrived on the drama. Snoop's issue was not just lyrical. He often felt that Eminem's aggressive style and controversial lyrics overshadowed the collaborative spirit of hip-hop. In his eyes, Eminem thrived on conflict and shock value, while Snoop valued groove, unity, and good vibes. Their differences became more personal than professional when Eminem interpreted Snoop's words as betrayal, especially given their shared history under Dr. Dre mentorship. Although they briefly reconciled later on, the scars of that feud lingered. For Snoop, working with Eminem meant walking on eggshells, never sure when another diss could fly his way. To him, Eminem was not just difficult. He represented unnecessary chaos in an industry already filled with tension. That's why Eminem made the list of actors and artists Snoop truly hated collaborating with. Number 4. Kevin Hart. On the surface, Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg look like the perfect comedic duo, both larger-than-life personalities, both loved by millions, and both capable of lighting up any stage. But behind the laughter, their working relationship was not as smooth as fans believed. When Snoop collaborated with Kevin on entertainment specials and award shows, he quickly realized that Hart's style of comedy often came at someone else's expense, and many times, that someone was Snoop himself. According to insiders, Kevin would crack relentless jokes about Snoop's cannabis use, his rap career, and even his age, turning him into a punchline rather than a respected peer. While Snoop played along publicly, privately, he grew tired of the constant mockery. To him, humor should be about sharing joy, not belittling someone's entire identity. The tipping point reportedly came during a rehearsal for a live event when Kevin kept interrupting Snoop's lines with jokes, throwing off the rhythm and making it impossible to deliver his parts seriously. Another source of friction was Kevin's relentless energy versus Snoop's laid-back vibe. Snoop values calm, cool interactions, while Kevin's over-the-top, fast-talking style often felt exhausting. Instead of balancing each other out, the contrast created tension. Snoop allegedly told friends that working with Kevin was like being in a room where you could never catch your breath. Though they've kept things cordial in public, Snoop never forgot how Kevin's need to be the center of attention overshadowed collaboration. For him, Kevin Hart was not just difficult. He turned every project into a stage for himself, leaving little respect for anyone else involved. Number 5. 50 Cent. It's no secret that Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent have shared a complicated history. Both men are rap legends, but when it came to working together in Hollywood projects and music ventures, the chemistry was far from perfect. At first, fans thought the two had mutual respect, but behind the scenes, Snoop found 50 Cent nearly impossible to deal with. The biggest issue was 50's notorious reputation for being overly competitive. On collaborative projects, instead of working as a team, 50 reportedly treated everything like a battlefield, constantly trying to prove he was smarter, tougher, or more influential. Snoop, who prefers a laid-back and cooperative energy, often felt drained by 50's constant need to dominate conversations and decisions. Matters grew worse when Snoop felt disrespected by 50's sharp tongue. Known for his ruthless trolling and public callouts, 50 Cent once made dismissive remarks about Snoop's legacy, suggesting that his best years were behind him. For Snoop, who has built a decades-long career based on reinvention and consistency, those words stung. Their heated exchanges made it clear that the respect was not mutual. Beyond ego clashes, there were also creative differences. While Snoop leaned towards smooth West Coast vibes, 50's aggressive East Coast style created tension whenever they discussed joint ventures. Instead of finding a balance, their sessions often turned into power struggles. In the end, Snoop concluded that working with 50 Cent was like stepping into a never-ending fight for dominance. He respected 50's hustle but hated the attitude that came with it. For Snoop, 50 Cent was not just a rival. He was an exhausting presence he'd rather avoid altogether. Number 6. Ice Cube. Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube are two of the biggest names to ever come out of West Coast hip-hop, and for years fans assumed their bond was unbreakable. Both started from the streets, both carried the West Coast legacy on their shoulders, and both transitioned into Hollywood. But surprisingly, Snoop has admitted that working with Ice Cube was not always a good experience, and at times it turned into pure frustration. The core of their tension came from creative clashes. Ice Cube is famously serious, disciplined, and controlling when it comes to his work. He likes to have everything scripted, structured, and followed to the letter. Snoop, on the other hand, thrives on improvisation, free-flowing vibes, and creating in the moment. When the two worked together on certain projects, their opposite methods constantly collided. Cube would get irritated at Snoop's relaxed approach, while Snoop felt suffocated by Cube's strict style. Beyond creativity, there was also a clash of egos. Ice Cube often projected himself as the leader whenever they collaborated, making final decisions and sidelining others' input. Snoop, who has always demanded respect for his decades in the game, felt disrespected and overshadowed. To him, Cube's need for control crossed into arrogance. Adding fuel to the fire were business disagreements. Rumors suggest that they once argued over credit and money distribution in a project, leaving Snoop bitter about how Cube handled things. While they've remained cordial in public to maintain their legacies, privately Snoop has admitted he hated working with Ice Cube because the partnership drained the fun out of everything. For Snoop, Cube was not an enemy, but he was an exhausting collaborator, and that's why Ice Cube made the list. At the end of the day, Snoop Dogg's story reminds us that even the coolest stars aren't immune to clashes in Hollywood. Fame, ego, and creative differences can turn potential friendships into rivalries, and Snoop has never been afraid to admit who rubbed him the wrong way. From Mark Wahlberg's dismissive attitude to Ice Cube's controlling style, each encounter left its mark on him. Yet through it all, Snoop remains unapologetically himself, authentic, laid back, and unbothered. Love him or hate him, one thing's certain: nobody tells Snoop Dogg how to play the game but Snoop himself.